It's been a historic week for big oil. They are getting beat very badly due to these new climate change policies. The court system doesn't like the oil and gas industry, with no surprise with the administration that we have in place. Everything that I discuss on this channel is anything that affects the oil and gas industry, especially relating to the crude oil price, okay? And so I read a lot of news and I share that with my viewers. So if you like this channel, if you're interested in oil and gas, please subscribe. And I appreciate the comments, the likes, the shares. All social media platforms is simply trying to get rid of the fossil fuel industry. And so I don't get, this channel does not get the attention that I believe it should deserve, as well as many other viewers have commented. So I appreciate any support to this channel because I'm not getting any support from anywhere else. And so right now, oil prices are trading at WTI Crude 66.32, Brent Crude 69.63. Historic week for big oil. But in the wake of huge blows to the oil majors this week, more than a few analysts spoke about the growing odds of a supply crunch in the years ahead. Now, I'm seeing this. This is a very common thread in the oil and gas industry. What's happening a lot is that they are talking about the doom and gloom of the fossil fuel industry, but just like he said, few analysts spoke about the growing odds of a supply crunch. You can't destroy an industry where the demand is growing, where the demand is needed, okay? Driving is increasing. Plastics usage is increasing. Oil demand is increasing. And the Biden administration, as well as the media, is coming after the oil and gas industry in a big way. Okay. Shell. Now this is interesting. Okay. So the majors are getting beat badly in the courts. Shell loses in court, lost a landmark legal cases in a Dutch court, which, if it stands, will require 45% cuts in GHG emissions by 2030. The case is seen as a warning sign for the rest of the oil industry, signaling legal exposure to the Scope 3 emissions. So bottom line, the Biden administration, as well as all the other ones that are upholding the plan to end the fossil fuel industry, are coming together and using all legal means necessary. Okay. Exxon loses a board vote. Engine number one votes for two if its candidates in a stunning blow to ExxonMobil. The win is being viewed as a shocking and powerful statement by shareholders as to their displeasure with the oil giant for not doing enough to mitigate the effects of its business on the climate. I mean, they are an oil and gas company, and the climate change activists are anti-oil and gas, and they're saying they're not doing enough to mitigate the effects of its business, which is drilling for oil, on the climate. I mean, it's just legal mumbo jumbo. And bottom line, they just want to get rid of Exxon, Chevron, Shell. They want to get rid of these oil companies. Okay. Court ruling could shrink Shell. The court ruling ordered Shell to speed up its plans to cut greenhouse gases. Emissions could lead to a 12% decline in the company's energy output, including a sharp drop in oil and gas sales, according to Reuters. Listen, you can't decline the oil and gas industry when demand is continuing to rise. Now, if we had the green energy technology at full scale, fully deployed, infrastructure upgraded, then yes, let's do that. But these guys are moving too quickly, and it's setting us on a collision course for having a higher demand than there is supply. And Russia, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, they are laughing all the way to the bank. Exxon must cut production. Engine number one said must cut oil production. They need to position themselves for success. Charlie Penner of engine number one told the FT, "You would certainly believe that would mean less oil and gas production going forward." This is Exxon, one of the world's biggest oil and gas companies. The hedge fund's founder, Chris James, added, "Watching that meeting yesterday was such a perfect example of how they don't realize the world has changed. It was all on display." Look, the world hasn't changed. We're still using oil and gas. What has changed is the narrative. What has changed is what CNN, all the major news organization, is saying. But at the end of the day, no one's behavior has changed. The left, they're still flying in their corporate jets. They're still driving in their gas-powered cars. They're still charging their iPhones. They're still using electricity the same as if, they would have to give up their iPhones. They would have to give up their Minecraft. And they haven't. And they're not going to. They're not changing. Chevron shareholders vote to Scope 3. Chevron also lost a notable shareholder vote with a measure requiring a target to reduce Scope 3 emissions passed by more than 60% of shareholders. Another major rebuke to the oil industry. They are getting beat very badly. Oil prices rose early on Friday for a sixth consecutive day, and we're on track for weekly and monthly gains after the defeats on climate policies that major oil firms suffered at the hands of shareholders and judges. Look, they're saying that they were on track for weekly and monthly gains after the defeats on climate policies. Look, this is good for the oil and gas industry. The shale oil and gas industry, because of the Bakken Shale, the Permian Basin, we went from producing 6 million a day and upwards of 13 million plus a day barrels of U.S. oil. We were in an oil glut, okay? And now we're in a situation where we're not producing enough oil anymore, and they are destroying the oil and gas industry, okay? Now, these climate policies, these strict climate policies, all they're doing is dismantling the energy industry, where this world was built on energy. And without it, we can't continue to move forward. And so we're on path to seeing the highest oil prices have ever been, unless Biden pulls a rabbit out of his hat and actually does what he says he's going to do and invents a technology that doesn't exist yet. Oil prices rose early on Friday for a sixth consecutive day, and we're on track for weekly and monthly gains after the defeats on climate policies that major oil firms suffered at the hands of shareholders and judges. Prices were up by 0.82% at $67.40 after settling on Thursday at their highest level since the end of October 2018. So we haven't seen these prices since 2018. Expectations that reopening economies and higher travel numbers in the United States boost fuel demand outweighed this week concerns about the coronavirus spread in parts of Asia and the potential return of Iranian oil to the market. Look, outweighing the concerns about coronavirus simply means that the news about this coronavirus pandemic is detaching itself from oil prices because people are not believing what they're hearing in the news anymore. It's by many people, by many Americans, that this COVID thing is not as serious as what the left tried to make us believe. And so there was a time when it greatly affected oil prices. So now we have a lot of news that greatly reduce the value of oil. We have a lot of new laws that are coming in to attack the oil and gas industry, and it's greatly depressed the oil and gas industry in every country. We're on path for not having enough oil. And if the Biden administration continues, we're going to see energy prices higher than we've ever seen them before. In addition, analysts widely expect OPEC to reaffirm as its meeting next Tuesday plans to unwind the cuts by 840,000 barrels per day, signaling confidence that the market is well positioned to absorb the additional supply as demand is rising with economies reopening. Russia estimates that the global oil market is currently in a deficit of around 1 million barrels a day. So bottom line, OPEC is interested in balancing the market. These guys are desperate for higher oil prices. They need $80, $90 a barrel of oil. They don't have any more money to enhance their infrastructure. They're not getting more money to develop more oil and gas assets. They're just producing oil and selling it, reducing the amount of oil that they have. In the past, they would take a percentage of the money that comes in from oil exports, and they would use it to increase more oil development. They would use that money to build more skyscrapers, more roads, more military. These guys are just paying for the bare minimum. They're just keeping the lights on right now at current prices. They are, and not only that, they're spending money on green. Adhere to what the powers that be are forcing on them, and with the risk of sanctions. I think it's that easy. I think it's that simple. I mean, Exxon Mobil and all these majors simply pulled their pants down to get a portion of the trillions of dollars that Biden is pumping into the economy. It's like, hey, if you do this, we'll give you $300 million. Sure, why not? I mean, we're losing money anyways. I mean, even if oil prices were $80 a barrel, the formation shale oil and gas, they lost money in that. Exxon, Shale, Texaco, all the major oil and gas companies that got involved in the shale oil and gas industry in the U.S., which is what made us a net exporter, the world's biggest producing country in the world for oil. It was a loss, even at $100 oil. Even under the Obama administration, those companies lost money, and the banks that invested in them lost money as well, because it's too expensive to extract that tight oil. They were already losing, and then COVID came in. Then Biden came in. They're losing on 3 different fronts. Of course they're going to take money for green. Of course Saudi Arabia is going to take money for green. Of course they're going to try to adhere to things going on, but all they're doing is appeasing. And they're waiting for the shale American industry, and they're waiting for the Biden administration to stomp out all these other oil and gas companies due to the agenda. And then what? I mean, you look at China, they're building coal plants. They're not going completely green. They hold more patents on green technology than any other country in the world. China does. They have the largest lithium mines than any other country out there. I mean, it's a smart move to push this agenda. And if you read the news, and I'm going to do a video about this, but if you read the news, there's many ties regarding the Biden and his family ties to China. Okay, and so I'll talk more about this stuff later. Earlier this week, Goldman Sachs kept its outlook for oil prices to rise to $80 per barrel by the end of this year, despite the possibility of Iran's oil returning to the market. Midweek, the EIA reported inventory draws in crude oil, gasoline, and middle distillates, also boosting market sentiment. Oil prices bounce back on bullish inventory data. Energy Information Administration confirmed a draw at 1.7 million barrels for the week to May 21st. At 484.3 million barrels, the EIA said crude oil inventories are below the 5-year seasonal average. Okay, and so oil prices continue to rise. Inventories continue to drop. The strict policies in place are causing the oil and gas industry to continue to reduce its oil production levels. And so the Biden administration is doing what they said they're going to do, regardless of the ignorance of setting the stage for the highest energy prices I've ever been. I mean, you every time you guys go to the pump and fill up your tank, I know you're comparing the two administrations. You know, Trump, he made energy more abundant than any other president, causing energy prices to be the lowest they've ever been. And so now this new administration is spending trillions of dollars on green. on technology that isn't proven yet. We're trading one energy for the other. Fossil fuel energy is the cheapest energy in the world, and it's the highest paying producing job in the world. As we're green tech, lower wages has yet to be proven, trillions of dollars, higher expense. The cost of solar power panels is skyrocketing. The cost of lithium is skyrocketing. The cost of green tech continues to rise. They can only give it so many subsidies. If you like this channel, please subscribe, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.